Hi, my name's Katie and welcome to my channel. This is my 6-foot African cichlid tank that I've got here behind me, and I've had this tank set up for about 15 months now, and I'm pretty happy with the way that it's looking finally, but it took me a long time to get to that point. I thought I'd make this video to share with you some of the things that I learned along the way and the main biggest factors of what I think took this tank from looking nice but to looking really, really nice. Oftentimes you'll see a tank and it's all, pretty and beautiful, but it's been running for a really long time and it might have taken a long time to get it to that point where it looks quite nice. But this tank definitely went through a process to get to the point where it is now. It wasn't always looking this good. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a like, and if you're enjoying my content and you haven't already, I would love for you to subscribe to the channel too. Alright, without further ado, let's get into the video. So first I'll start with just giving you a little bit of a look at what the tank is looking like at the moment. As you can see, I have a mix of Lake Malawi African Cichlids in here. I have Haps, which are ones like this big guy here, the Venestus, and this big one over here too, and this nice blue one. Then I've got Peacocks Cichlids, which are the ones that are like this ruby cichlid here, and this Eureka red one too. And then I've got Mbuna, which are the rock-dwelling, more kind of algae-eating ones, and they're like this one, which is a red zebra. So they've got kind of like this more round type of face to their head, you'll notice, and they're a little bit chubbier as well. They're kind of more like a chonkier fish. I've got all three of them, and they've been living in here for 15 months now, the majority of them anyway. And what I've done is I have added some extra ones over time. So you'll see a little tiny peacock one here, and that one was only added around about a month ago, and same with this white night hap here as well. But there has been a mix of them since the very beginning, and I really haven't had any issues with aggression between the three types, mainly because of the way that I've got the tank set up. It's because it's nice and long, it's 6 foot long, so this is a Waterbox Clearpro 7225, and that means that there's plenty of horizontal room for the fish to actually swim. But then I've also got plenty of Texas Holy Rock, which is this type of limestone in here. And what that does is it gives the Mbuna plenty of places to be able to go and hide as well. And then the Haps and the Peacocks are more the kind of free swimmers that like to move around that rock. The rock is good for that purpose, but what it's also doing is raising my pH to more about an 8.2, and then it also raises my carbonate hardness, so my KH, which helps to keep the pH nice and stable too. So if you're looking at getting Lake Malawi cichlids, getting a type of limestone like that is probably something that you're going to want to look into. Now, when it comes to the things that I've changed in this tank to get it to the point where it is now, I would say that there's three main things that I think improved the actual look of the tank. And these things will also be things that improved the, quality of the tank as well, and the health of the tank too. But those three things are reducing the amount of algae that was on the rocks, actually growing the fish out and getting them nice and big and colourful. And then lastly, actually improving the colour of the water and the clarity of the water so that it has that really nice, crisp and clear look to it. So I'll start with just quickly telling you about what happened with the rocks. I used to have less rock in here, but the rock that I did have in here about, I would say 8 months ago, was absolutely completely covered in blackbeard algae. Just not a very pleasing to the eye kind of algae. It was very dark and hairy, and it really just took away, I think, from the tank. The way that I actually managed to get rid of it wasn't by reducing my light or anything like that, because I got 3 bristlenose catfish and they completely obliterated it. They ate all of the brown black algae, whatever it was, off the rocks. And they've lived in there with the African cichlids now for the past 8 months and haven't had any issues with them at all. I got them as tiny little babies and I've grown them out and they're quite big now. If you're having any issues with that type of algae, I highly recommend them. The thing though that they don't eat is the green spot algae, which you can see on the rocks here. All of that green algae is what they will not eat. However, I really like the green algae on the rocks. I'm happy with the way it looks, and that it also gives the Mbuna, so like these little guys here something to graze on throughout the day, because they have a higher, I guess, amount of algae and fibre in their diet compared to the haps and the peacocks, so they quite like that. And I found that that's been a good trade-off for them, not having the algae that I think is ugly, but having the algae I like that they can eat as well. The other thing too, as I mentioned, is actually growing the fish out. You can actually, this is a good example because you can see the size discrepancy between the ones I've had in here for quite a while versus the ones that I added recently. If you have a look at ones like this guy here and this dragon blood one, this sunshine peacock, this yellow Mbuna, I can't remember, electric yellow Mbuna I think they're called, this red top hongi as well, bumblebee Mbuna. These are all examples of ones that were the original fish added in here. Then if you look at ones like this travase here and this guy down here, who's a type of Mbuna, I can't remember the type, but you can see that they're more medium sized. They were added or bought around about 3 months ago, I would say now. Then you have ones that are quite tiny, like this hap and this Mbuna, that blue one there, that I only added around about a month ago. And you can see that they're pretty small. I added them a month ago and I've had them for maybe like 6-8 weeks, I would say. But you can see the size difference, and what I will add too though is I really believe that once you've got some bigger ones in there and you add some smaller ones, I find the smaller ones grow quicker to catch up. I may be wrong, it might just be that I'm imagining it, but I'm thinking it could be possibly due to the competition with the bigger fish, so maybe something happens to their hormones to get them to actually compete and grow faster, potentially. But that's just what I've observed. If you're looking for ones that are colourful right from the get-go and you don't want to wait for your fish to actually grow out, then you might want to consider getting Mbuna over peacocks and haps. So the Mbuna, like this electric yellow, has always been that colour. And the same with this one here too, the red zebra. They don't really change their colour over time. They're always pretty bright, and the males and the females are also pretty bright. Whereas when you're looking at the peacocks and the haps, oftentimes they take quite a while to colour up, but then also if you've got females in there, the females can be pretty bland, kind of like this one here. They kind of look like a grey colour, opposed to looking really nice and bright. The exception with the peacocks are these ones called OB peacocks. So like this little guy here, so an orange blotched peacock is what it stands for. And they do tend to be pretty colourful, I find, whether they're male or female, and even from a young age. I'll see if I can get this one over here. So that's an example of one that I think is possibly a female. And you can see it's not super brightly coloured, but it's going to have more colour compared to that little grey one here that I showed you just before. The exception to this too is if you have males and females and you get them quite small like what I did, then if you're willing to feed them what's called a colour food, so it's a type of food that has some hormones in it, then you can actually get the females to colour up and look just like males with this food. I don't know if there's any health problems with feeding it. I know it's not the best quality food, and I know that you don't want to overdo it because then sometimes the colours start looking a little bit weird, but it can be something that you might just feed every now and then. I didn't feed it until about half a year into having them, and I only feed it about 2-3 times a week now. But if you have a look at a fish like this one here, this Eureka red peacock is actually a female, and I'll also show you another one that's a female. This one here with the yellow head is a sulphur crested peacock hybrid, and you'll notice that she's also really colourful as well. They're the only two that I know for sure are females because they both had babies, and this little guy here is actually one of the fry that grew up that is a mix of my sulphur crested female here and then this albino dragon blood peacock here. So I definitely know that it works. The one that I feed them is called Absolute Colour. I'll show it to you. So it's actually over here. So I feed them this. I think this is only available in Australia though, so it's good news if you're in Australia, but if you live in another country, there will be other types of colour foods that you can get to feed your African cichlids too. And then you don't have to worry about whether they're male or female. Oh no, they know I'm feeding them or I've got food, because then you can make them more colourful no matter what. And in the 15 months of having them, fed them that for half a year, since they were 6 months old, and I haven't had any issues. But I also feed them a good quality pellet, so New Life Spectrum Thera A, and I did have Algae Max as well. And this is a really nice, good quality food, because if you look at the ingredients, you'll see that it has whole food, so whole Antarctic krill, giant squid as the first 2 ingredients, opposed to some of the less healthy ones, which will have things like cereal fillers or wheat as their first ingredients. And feeding them a good quality pellet is also something that once you're patient and you wait, and if you've got males, you'll find that that helps them to colour up and look really nice. In addition to, of course, keeping good water as well, making sure you've got a stable pH, making sure that your nitrates aren't getting too high, so you're doing your water changes, keeping up with maintenance, your fish don't have disease. These are all things too that are going to help them to grow as quickly as possible and show their full potential with their colours. Look at these guys having a fight. Now, the other thing too, you'll notice how nice the water looks in here. It is very, very nice and crystal clear, and there are a few things that help. I mean, the more obvious ones are going to be, of course, keeping up with water changes. So I do an 80% water change once per week. Well, I try to. Sometimes I don't quite stick to that, but that's what I try to do. That's one thing. Having a wave maker. This is actually one that I recently got. I really like it. It's the AI wave maker. It's really, really nice. Having a wave maker just helps to make sure that you've got good flow of the water into your filters. Having adequate filtration is another thing that's going to help. So I've got 2 FX6 canister filters on this tank. I've got one on either side, and they've been really, really great. But the thing that I found has actually helped the most with the clarity of the water is adding in a UV clarifier. So that's an ultraviolet clarifier, or a UVC. And what that does is it actually kills any algae that's in your water column. I've got 2 ones, they're called green killing machines. They're just internal units. There's one on this side, then if you look over here, there's another one. They are a little bit unsightly, but I don't mind. I find that they blend in okay anyway with the intake for the canister filters. But for my tank in particular, because as you see, I've got the AI prime lights on here, so the freshwater prime ones, and they're quite intense lights, and I've got them on for about 10 to 12 hours a day. So that means that my water was getting a little bit green, and what they're helping with is to keep the greenness out. But then the other thing that I've done too is I've added what is a type of chemical filtration into my filters. It's called Chem Purigen, and that's just helped to take out any particles and stuff from the water and make it really nice and crystal clear. Before I added the UVC and the Purigen, yes, the tank was still nice. I was still doing weekly water changes. I still had the same filtration, except I did put some finer sponges in there too to improve the mechanical filtration. I did have those things, but the water was just a little bit green and wasn't quite as clear as what it is now. No matter how many water changes you do, if you've got a lot of fish like what I've got that produce a lot of waste, and even if you've got awesome filtration, if you've got bright lights, lots of fish, then you can always improve your water clarity and the clearness of the water, probably by getting the UVC, and then also definitely by adding the Purigen into the tank. So highly recommend that. So that's really the 3 main things that I think have improved the overall aesthetic of what this tank is like. I would love to hear what your thoughts are as well, if there's anything that I've missed or that you've actually done to your tank that you think has really improved the way that it looks. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a like, comment down below, let me know what you think, and if you'd like to see more content like this, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!